I, 21 male, have been dating my now ex-girlfriend, 20, for 6 months. We met at university. She's from another country and came here to study, so during the academic year I didn't have the opportunity to meet her parents. I don't think that's relevant, but we're both from Europe. During the summer vacation, she and her parents invited me to stay with them for a while. My girlfriend is very humble, so she never talked about her family's money, but I figured out pretty quickly that her parents were quite wealthy, certainly much richer than my family. My father left my mother for another woman when I was 6 years old. They separated, and since then my mother raised me by herself. My father ignored me for years. When I was a teenager, he suddenly reminded himself of my existence, but I wanted nothing to do with him. My mother never remarried. Although higher education here is mostly free, sending me to study in a big city was a significant financial burden for her. I had a part-time job from the beginning of my studies, but sometimes it was still difficult for me to make ends meet. My girlfriend always wanted to help me in such situations, but I was too proud to accept her help. She must have told her parents about it because they paid for my plane tickets and assured me that I didn't have to worry about any expenses during the trip. So I went on the plane. My girlfriend picked me up from the airport and took me to her parents' house. They both seemed very friendly and considerate. They gave us a lot of privacy but offered to show me around the city one day if my girlfriend and I wanted to. I said I'd be happy to, and a few days later we spent a whole day with my girlfriend's parents, sightseeing, going to museums, etc. We had a good time. The next day, the girls' parents suggested that if we wanted, we could go to dinner with them and a couple of their friends. Let's call them John and Kate. In the evening, to which we agreed. John and Kate were both in their 50s. They were well-mannered and interesting people, and I actually got along pretty well with them since they both work in fields in which I'm interested, publishing and media. But when we got back home, my girlfriend's mom told my girlfriend's dad something about John going somewhere with his wife. I was confused and said, "What do you mean, Kate isn't his wife?" They looked at each other and explained that John and Kate had been lovers for almost 20 years and that John had a wife with whom he lived and adult children, but spent a few days a week with Kate. They said it as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Girlfriend's mom even added that John wanted to leave his wife for Kate years ago, but Kate talked him out of it, saying she never wanted a husband because she preferred to live alone and couldn't imagine herself as a wife and mother. I was shocked, but also furious. I utterly hate cheaters and people who enable cheating. My father's infidelity completely ruined my mother and our family. I was disgusted that I was staying at the house of people who were good friends with the cheater and his mistress and treated it like something normal and natural. I asked if John's wife knew about Kate. Girlfriend's mom said they had no idea because they never talked to his wife. They met John and Kate as a couple and always spent time with the two of them. Girlfriend's dad said John's wife most likely figured it out because it's hard to hide an affair for that long. Disgusted, I exclaimed that they were terrible people, as terrible as their cheating friends. My girlfriend's parents were very surprised but tried to stay calm. They said some BS about how love is a complicated matter and that there's no reason to interfere in the private lives of others because we never know the whole story. I said I wanted nothing to do with them and left the room. My girlfriend ran after me. She was angry that I'd insulted her parents while they had been nothing but kind to me for the past couple of days. I said she shouldn't defend them and asked if it bothered her that her parents are friends with people who are in an extramarital affair. She said John and Kate are friends of her parents, not her friends, so it's not her place to interfere. I told her that she was the same as her parents and that if she was an ethical person, she should convince them to break contact with John and Kate and reveal the affair to John's wife. And if they were unwilling to do so, she should break contact with her parents herself. I had no contact with my father when he turned out to be an idiot. It's not that hard. Family is not everything. She started crying and said that I was crazy to expect that of her and that she loved her parents. She said that my father had abandoned me, so it was understandable that I had broken contact with him, but that her parents had always been loving and supportive of her and that it would be cruel to break contact with them because of some abstract moral high ground. Her words. So I told her that I was leaving and that our relationship was over. I spent absolutely all my savings on a plane ticket for the next day. My buddy transferred the small missing amount to me, and I promised to pay him back as soon as possible and returned home. My ex-girlfriend tried repeatedly to contact me, but I didn't answer. It seemed to me that I did the right thing and acted in accordance with my principles. I can't imagine a relationship with someone who accepts cheating, even as a bystander, and with someone whose parents have no moral values. However, our mutual friends believe that I acted cruelly, that I offended the girlfriend's parents when I was their guest, and that I should apologise. I don't think I should. I was their guest only because they were lucky to have more money than I was. It doesn't mean anything. Am I the idiot? Cheating is gross and terrible, but frankly, your behaviour is outrageous, extreme and borderline abusive. Trying to force your girlfriend to go no contact with her parents because they have a friend who's having an affair? That's straight up psycho, bro. You are the idiot. I understand his feelings towards cheating, but wow, asking his girlfriend to break contact with her parents over their friend's relationship was nuts. And after 6 months of dating while both are in their early 20s, I hope OP considers counselling. The damage his father did will keep ruining future relationships otherwise. That's a very good point. He's still very young, so he can still take the measures to work through those issues. Not that you can't when you're older, but it's much harder once you're stuck in your way of thinking for so long. OP doesn't even know if John and Kate have an open relationship either. For 20 years, John has been spending half the week with his wife and half the week with Kate. And you don't think the wife knows? Jesus. Bro, you told your girlfriend of 6 months to go no contact with her parents over crap that's not your business. You should apologise to both your girlfriend and her parents. You should also explain to her parents why you feel so strongly, but take responsibility for your douchey behaviour and apologise. You'll be lucky if your girlfriend will take you back. Update: am I the idiot for insulting my girlfriend's parents after I found out what they did? I frankly do not expect such a response. Now I understand that I did not treat my ex fairly and that I might have been the idiot. I was driven by anger and felt betrayed that she sided with her parents and not me, even though she knew how traumatized I was by my father's affair. I don't think we're compatible, but I will apologize to her and explain my behavior. She deserves closure. I just want to explain a few things in my defense, even though I know that there were some indefensible things in my behavior. My ex and her parents are not from some exotic foreign country with different cultures. We're both from Western Europe and adultery is not considered normal here. The girlfriend's parents explicitly called Kate a mistress and John and Kate's relationship an affair, so I really don't think it's polyamory or an open marriage. They said the wife probably knows because it's hard to hide an affair for 20 years, but I'm not sure that's the case. From what I understood, John lives out of town and often spends several days in town because of his job, so he can justify his absence with work stuff. They also said that he wanted to leave his wife for Kate. It's evident that his wife is put in a lower position here, even though she's the mother of his children. This seems cruel and disrespectful to me. Even if the wife knows and accepts the affair, it's probably only because of financial dependence or out of concern for the family, not because she really feels okay about it. You are the idiot even after your update. You're imagining a stranger's wife as your mother and it's causing you to take an icky situation very personally. Would you have reacted the same if Kate was the one cheating on her husband and John was just some single dude? Probably not. It would still be gross, but you probably wouldn't have cared enough to blow up your own relationship over it. Get therapy. My ex and I share custody of our tween son Caleb. He had ODD and ADHD when he was a kindergartner. It was so bad that he got kicked out of summer camp and went through multiple sitters, all before he was 6. His mom and I worked, so being a stay-at-home parent wasn't an option. A few summers ago, we found our unicorn sitter, Mike. We have no idea how Mike makes it work, but he does. Caleb has been a different kid ever since Mike started working for us. He's so well-behaved, polite and social. Mike is like his best friend. We joke that Mike is Caleb's executive assistant. Earlier this year, Caleb became friends with a classmate named Luke. They wanted a sleepover playdate, and everything was good until we said that Mike would pick up both boys, bring them to my place, go to the pier and then be back home to go to bed. Luke's mom flat out said she wasn't comfortable with a male sitter. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She said it was too weird for a male to babysit and wasn't cool with it. I said she didn't need to explain herself and there would be no playdates with our kids outside of school. She wasn't expecting that. I told her if she's not okay with a male caregiver, then she probably wouldn't be okay with Luke spending the night at my place since I'm a single dad. I pointed out she was the first parent to have a problem with this, and Mike occasionally works for other families at the school. She was offended that I was offended. I ran into Luke's mom, who said she needed a sitter for a couple of weeks as her old sitter quit, and now the new sitter wasn't free until mid-September. She then asked if Mike would be free. She even said she would need an overnight. I told her you can't be serious. You said you didn't trust Mike and now you want him to watch your son so you can have a social life? I admit that it took guts to ask. I told her, no, we would not share our nanny. You said that it was sus when a guy has a childcare job. She said she was joking and that Mike was a nice guy. I said, I know he is, but you can't use him. For the record, the days and times that she needed him were days when he was working for us. She would have to pay him on top of what we pay, but Mike would be at Luke's house or his place. My ex and I don't mind Mike double-dipping on sitter fees by watching more than one kid because he can make a lot of money and Caleb gets a playdate. This was an exception where I did her a problem. Ultimately, it's not your place to make the decision for Mike unless you have a contract signed. And if he wants to freelance a little, he needs your permission. In that sense, you are the idiot. But I understand your reservations. Let Mike know and explain why you delay telling him, but you have to let Mike decide. Withholding this from him and him finding out another way will not be good for your working relationship. You are the idiot, absolutely, for thinking you get to decide Mike's schedule and choose what other clients he picks up. You said he already nannies and babysits for other kids. If you suddenly start disliking one of those parents, do you honestly think you have the right to tell him that he must no longer provide his services to them? Unpopular opinion, but not the idiot. As a masculine nanny myself, there is a lot of discrimination against male or masculine caregivers. I would never want to work with any parent that said something like that. You save Mike the trouble of dealing with someone who probably wouldn't have treated him well. If the family I work for approached me with this situation, I would immediately decline because this woman clearly wouldn't treat me with respect and would put me in, at the very least, a very uncomfortable situation. All in all, I think you did the right thing and saved everyone time and hassle. This wouldn't have been a viable option for Mike. I'm 27 as she is. We dated for a short time about 5 or 6 years ago. We broke up because I was young, had commitment issues, and felt that she also needed to mature. Even though we broke up, we were always still pretty close. I decided to join the Navy, which is also part of the reason we broke up, and I remember her being upset about it. We continued to exchange letters and texts every once in a while. I'd sometimes hang out with her when I was home for a week or two. Now I'm out of the Navy and have recently bought a house in my hometown. Things are going well and I'm really ready to settle down. It's been a while since I've heard from my ex and I decided to catch up with her. We texted for a day and caught up and she said that she wanted to meet up and talk. I picked her up and we drove around. She looked beautiful, even more so when I last saw her. I swear every time I see her she looks better and better. As we were catching up, there were a lot of red flags, however. For one, she still lives at home with her mom. She babysits and is a nanny. She's done this since she was 22 or so. She drives one of her mom's cars and doesn't actually have a car. I asked her if she was doing anything else and she said no. We talked about renting and stuff like that and she laughed and said that she maybe has $200 to her name. We talked about other work and she said that she gets overwhelmed easily and that being a nanny is the only thing she can do. When asked about other future plans, she said, "I only want to be a mom." This was the same 5 years ago or so, but I wasn't concerned as I was young and figured we both needed to do a lot of growing up. But now, here we are. I told her that I wasn't sure what I was feeling, and when she asked what I meant, I said she was gorgeous, but at this point in life, you gotta bring more to the table than just that. She laughed and said she thought I wanted to have intimacy, and that was the only reason for the meeting. I don't think it's entirely true because she looked hurt when I wasn't feeling it. As we pulled back into her driveway, she said, "Please don't ghost me." And I said, "Okay, we'll try and work this out." The next 2 days, I reached out to her via text and she never responded. She ghosted me, lol. Not sure why. There's no info about what kind of person she is. Kind, funny, patient, plays guitar, enjoys running, loves animals. Always remembers someone's birthday and tries to make their day special. These are just some examples. Well-rounded people are more than just their bank account or professional ambitions. Try to look deeper if you're looking for a serious relationship. Yep, exactly. OP only sees her as a hot, poor girl, not an actual person. It's always the dusties that ask, "What do you bring to the table?" He thinks he's the best catch out there because he has a house. She should ask him what he brings to the table. You are the idiot. She's allowed to live her life the way she wants. She's your ex, not some object waiting around for you. Just move on. OP is clearly not over her, and this was an attempt to bring her down so he can be seen as this magnanimous partner who would sacrifice items on his table for her. Gross and completely transparent, ex-girlfriend got the confirmation she needed that he's still an idiot. That's why she ghosted him. I, 25 female, and my husband, 27, have a complicated history together, especially concerning his family. I met him on a blind date in college and he asked me to be his girlfriend on our second date. He's always been sweet, trying to be considerate of my feelings, especially when it comes to his family. His mother has always been against our relationship from the start, mostly due to the reasons I think I might be the idiot here. He had a friend, let's call her Annie, who passed away when he was a teenager. He's always been close with her and insisted they were platonic. However, his mother always talked about how they were supposed to get married as adults and I was his second choice, and he wouldn't have married me if she was alive. It's always hurt, in all honesty, and I've tried as hard as I can to be accommodating to her and her grief, as she cared about Annie a lot and was even friends with her mother. Annie was a great girl and I do wish I could have gotten to know her, but it hurts being constantly compared to the woman my husband could have been with. Especially since we already have a son who his mother isn't allowed to see because of her insistence that he's not her real grandbaby because he isn't Annie's. So this is where I think I probably overreacted and could be the idiot. We found out 2 months ago that we were having a baby girl, and we were ecstatic. I was worried he'd be one of those boy-only fathers, but he almost cried when he found out we'd have a girl. Our son is also over the moon, constantly talking to his sister and asking for her name, which has become an issue as he recently asked to name our daughter after Annie, which was upsetting, especially since his mother is so hung up about them being together. We ended up arguing slightly and I'm currently staying with my son at a friend's house. Am I overthinking this? I just don't know what to do. His mom has been blowing up my messages. I don't even know how she got my messenger. He and I haven't spoken to her since our son's first birthday. My mama just told me to stop arguing over it and just let him choose her name, since she's his only daughter. My friend says that I'm overreacting for leaving. Still, I just needed time for myself, and I didn't want to confront him right now. Oh heck, no on naming your daughter by his deceased ex. What is wrong with him to even suggest such a thing? This would be my hill to die on. Your husband is wrong. Your mother-in-law is awful. Do not let this happen. Make sure he doesn't get to fill out the birth certificate. I cannot fathom the gross insensitivity of this request and your mother-in-law's behaviour. This name is now toxic to your marriage. The fact he let it get to the point you have had to leave your home whilst pregnant is not right. You can get by it, but he needs to understand that he could damage the relationship between you and your daughter before she's born, cause resentment with her brother because she's a favourite, and cause trauma for you every time her name is mentioned. OP, I'm sorry you're dealing with this nonsense. Your mother-in-law is a whack job, and Hubs is just playing into it.